and welcome to TRT World. I'm Yashni Padiachi and thank you for joining us for this special program on Syria. The country is entering a historic turning point. The Assad regime has fallen and a new administration is in charge. But Syria stands at a crossroads with deep economic uncertainties and the pressing need for rebuilding. We look at the challenges ahead and the pursuit of political stability. It all began on November 27th. The opposition groups launched a massive coordinated offensive against regime forces in Aleppo, Idlib, Hama and Homs. This marked the beginning of the end of the Assad regime. By November 29th, Aleppo was back in opposition hands for the first time in 8 years. However, nearby areas remained under the control of other factions, including the YPG terror group. On November 30th, opposition forces stormed into Hama and Homs, capturing key territories, while the opposition pushed forward. Parts of northern and eastern Syria remain controlled by the YPG. By December 7th, the opposition reached the suburbs of Damascus. Meanwhile, Syria was still fragmented, with the terror group YPG maintaining control in the northeast and other factions holding even smaller territories. On December 8th, opposition forces declared Damascus liberated, marking the end of Bashar al-Assad's rule. Assad fled Syria seeking asylum in Russia. However, the country's divisions persisted, with the YPG and Israel still controlling significant regions. The fall of the Assad regime, after half a century in power, is a turning point for Syria. Most of the country is now under the control of opposition forces who have established an interim government. However, Syria remains divided. The YPG continues to control parts of the northeast, while Israel has solidified its presence in the Golan Heights and an expanded buffer zone. As the international community watches closely, Syria faces the challenge of rebuilding amid hopes, political fragmentation, and regional complexities. Now, we have teams across the country closely monitoring developments, and we're going to start with Bassam Buneni in the capital, Damascus. So, Bassam, the word unity has been widely used by the interim leaders, but they could face challenges in doing just that. Highlight some of those challenges for us.
I believe the main challenge is Assad's legacy, and let me make clear on that. It's mainly about social and economic challenges. Many regions here are marginalized and the whole country is on the brink. They lack even the essentials in some areas here in Syria. So basic services are the main challenge. Just consider if the weather conditions will worsen, which is most likely at this period of the year. People will badly need fuel, for example. They will badly need medicines. They will badly need everything. So this is one point. The other point is security, and the new administration here in Syria is working on maintaining the security, whether by calling armed groups to be disbanded or appointing a new defense minister in order to build up confidence and trust that it is really in charge of the country's affairs, and it could be serious in managing the country's affairs. So yes, unity at this point is really the key word in Syria, and I can safely say that we witness every day and every night various forms of expression of unities between Syrians.
Okay, Bassam, also tell us about the efforts that are underway to rebuild the country and how people are reacting to that.
At this point, the government is in a phase, let's say, of assessing the situation, assessing how to prioritize the country's urgent needs, because it will take time. And every single Syrian now has his own vision on how to prioritize these urgent needs. For example, forcibly disappearances are a priority for many Syrians, basic services as well. The economy, the inflation, how to maintain security, how to avoid acts of violations or abuses or even retaliation. And we can see statements on the state-owned TV channel here in Syria running around the clock, statements calling on people to be part of this phase and to be part mainly of the operation to restore peace and stability in the country.
Bassem Buneni, thank you very much. Live to us there from Damascus. Now, in Syria's north, doctors in Idlib are facing severe challenges following a series of airstrikes by the Assad regime during military operations in late November. Now there's an urgent call for international assistance to help rebuild damaged medical facilities. Noor Kormosh reports.
We are here in the city of Idlib, specifically in front of the National Hospital of Idlib and the Idlib University Hospital. And as you can see, the massive destruction caused by Assad regime warplanes that targeted these medical facilities during the military operation led by the opposition forces, which resulted in the fall of the Assad regime. And during that time, Assad regime warplanes started targeting residential areas, local markets, and also vital locations such as hospitals and medical facilities in the city of Idlib, hindering the medical efforts and immediate response to those who were injured after the airstrikes. And we've talked to the staff of this hospital. They told us that they were here when the airstrike happened, and they gave us this brief.
About 3 weeks ago, this hospital was violently targeted, rendering it completely out of service. Many other essential facilities in the area have also been damaged. This hospital, along with the surrounding medical centers, is vital to the city. People used to travel long distances to receive care here. We hope everyone collaborates and starts the rebuilding process as soon as possible.
This hospital used to treat a large number of patients. Its destruction has caused immense harm, and the situation has worsened. I remember seeing hundreds of people coming here for medical care.
In addition to that, this area in Idlib is well known in its dense medical services and institutes. As you can see, this is Idlib Health Directorate, and this we're currently talking in Idlib University Hospital, and in front of us is the National Hospital of Idlib and Ibn Sina Hospital, also in this location. And many hospitals are currently in this location, and most of them are actually out of service. And we've talked to the residents in this area. They told us that the Assad regime used to target purposely all the vital locations, all the medical facilities, to hinder humanitarian efforts.
I am just a civilian. My mobile shop was in front of the hospital and was completely destroyed. When the attack happened during the liberation battle, warplanes began targeting civilian areas, including hospitals, directly. Many people lost their lives and others were injured.
They also call on international community to provide help and assistance to rebuild these institutes, to rebuild the infrastructure in the city of Idlib and all the Syrian governorates after the fall. Because after the fall of the Assad regime, they told us that he left the country in a pile of destruction, and we need to stick together in Syria, and the international community need to take responsibility to rebuild a brighter Syria for Syrians.
Well, hundreds of thousands of Syrians are estimated to have been killed since 20. Taking you live now to Damascus, where the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan is holding a joint media briefing with the leader of Syria's interim government. There he is, Ahmed al-Shara. Let's listen in.
Including the economic and security developments and challenges and the future of the policy in Syria. In the coming days, we've received a lot. We've sent a lot of assurances to the neighboring countries, and we extensively talked about the strengthening of the coming government, most of all the defense ministry, and the arms need to be only in the hands of the state. No armed groups shall be holding arms. We talked about the strategic relations between Turkey and Syria, the economic, social, and political aspects. His Excellency has showed all solidarity to support Syria, to stand again as the infrastructure is destroyed by the former deposed regime. We talk about the economic infrastructure, and when we talk about the agricultural and industrial and all aspects which were destroyed by the former regime, Turkey has stood beside the Syrian people, and the Syrian people won't forget the Turkish solidarity and support. We will build strategic ties between the two countries and the peoples in general.
A joint future for the prosperity of both nations altogether. Thank you.
Kıymetli basın mensupları,
Valuable members of the press,
Sayın Eşşara'ya gösterdiği misafirperverlikler
first of
için
all,
çok
I would like
teşekkür
to
ediyorum.
thank Mr. Eşşara for the kind hospitality that he has displayed.
Olmaktan duyduğum memnuniyeti ifade ederek sözlerime
At
başlamak
the
istiyorum.
outset of my remarks, I would like to state that I'm very pleased to be in Damascus today.
yıllık Baas rejimi tarafından
Also,
tüm Suriyelileri saygıyla
I would like to remember with great respect all the Syrians who have been murdered by the Baath regime for the last 13 years, and I would like to pray for the souls of all our brothers and sisters who have been martyred. And I
sevgili kardeşlerim,
wish God's mercy being upon all of
Türk
them.
halkının selamını
Dear
getiriyorum.
brothers and sisters, I would like to convey the best regards of the Turkish people to all of you, and I also would like to convey the best regards of His Excellency Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the President of the Republic of Turkey. For the last 14 years, your joy has been our joy, and your grievances have been our grievances as well.
Bunu gerektiriyordu.
That is what good neighborhood and brotherhood required, of course.
Tarihin doğru tarafında
As
yer
the
almış
Republic of
olmanın
Turkey, we are so pleased that we are standing on the right side of the historical
değerli
developments.
kardeşlerim, İnşallah
Dear brothers and sisters,
ülkemizin en zor, en karanlık dönemi geride kaldı.
hopefully the darkest time of your country is over, and hopefully
Suriye'nin
brighter days await all of
dini ve
us.
mezhep grupları daha mutlu
Hopefully,
ve huzurlu olacak inşallah.
all the ethnicities and people from different religious beliefs in Syria will live in peace and prosperity. You will be shaping the future of the country. Turning Syria into a prosperous and secure country will be thanks to your efforts and endeavors. Today I am in Damascus because we will not leave you alone also today, as we have never left you alone during your most challenging days. The Turkish nation and the Turkish state and His Excellency Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan will always stand with you. Dear brothers and sisters, this victory belongs to yours and no one else. Thanks to your sacrifices, Syria has seized an historical opportunity. Today, Syria is establishing stability once again, and it is possible that the Syrian economy can be strengthened even further, and all the terrorist organizations in Syria can be tackled, and it is possible that Syrian people can go back to their normal lives. And together with Mr. Eşşara, we have discussed all those matters, and we have underlined the importance of this transition phase. Establishment of stability is the utmost priority in Syria. We have underlined it in our discussions. First of all, the security of the country should be established, and the rule of law should be established, and the minorities should be protected in Syria as well. Under the leadership of the Syrians, hopefully, a comprehensive and inclusive government will be established where no one is marginalized from the society. Establishing a country where the law prevails and where everyone lives in peace will be the greatest success of the Syria and the warranty for the future of the country. In order to realize all those targets, Syria should stand on her feet with all the functioning government institutions. As the Republic of Turkey, we are ready to share our best experiences for capacity building programs. Likewise, with our private sector companies and state institutions like TICA, AFAD, we would like to extend our support concretely to all the ongoing rebuilding activities, and our President has already given his orders to all the related state institutions. Valuable members of the press, Syria needs opportunity so that it can realize its targets. Uplifting sanctions is highly critical for the normalization process in Syria. In order to rebuild Syria, of course, the necessary preparations should be made as swiftly as possible. Voluntary and safe return of our Syrian brothers and sisters can be a reality only through this way. That's why the international community should extend a strong support to the interim government. I hope and pray that our official visit today will also encourage the official visits to be paid by many international actors. All the international actors should be engaged in diplomatic relations with the current government, because it is not the time to implement wait-and-see policies. We should act as swiftly as possible. Valuable members of the press, there is no doubt whatsoever with regards to the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Syria, and we can never have such kind of a doubt. And during our consultations today, we reaffirmed our joint stance. And once again, I would like to reiterate that there is no place for PKK and YPG in Syria, because those terrorist organizations are occupying the lands of Syria and looting its natural resources. In today's meeting, once again, with great pleasure, I have realized that Syria is determined to fighting against PKK and YPG. PKK and YPG, those terrorist organizations, should abolish themselves as swiftly as possible. In the meantime, we are ready to extend our best support to the Syrian people in their fight against Daesh. As it has been the case in the past, we will never allow Daesh to make use of and abuse this situation in Syria. Hopefully, Syria will cleanse the PKK, YPG and Daesh from its lands, as they have done so against Assad regime. We cannot, of course, allow Syrian lands to be occupied and invaded by foreign actors. Israel should indeed show sensitivity and respect to the territorial integrity of Syria, and Israel should not put the international order into more jeopardy, and the international community should stand against all those efforts and endeavors of Israel. Dear Syrian brothers and sisters, you have fought very bravely and in an honorable fashion, and personally, I have witnessed all your sacrifices, and I have seen what kind of grievances you had to endure. And I cannot forget the day that the opposition forces had to leave Aleppo. And I cannot also forget that some countries left you alone. But today is a day full of promises. And hopefully, what you have been through will empower you as you rebuild your country. For the brothers and sisters that we have lost, and for the future of the Syria, we will work together. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Eshara, and I also wish success to the new government of Syria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We take some questions. Anas from Anadolu Agency.
I would like to raise a question. Question will address both of you. My question is as follows. What kind of message you would like to convey
What is the message to the international community for the reconstruction of Syria? The Syrian people, for 14 years, have suffered from the woes of horrible war. We are suffering. More than half of the Syrian people are either displaced or refugees. Also, there is also the infrastructure of economy is destroyed, and we have a lot of challenges. The most important thing now is the whole or major powers need to agree on general principles of Syria. There needs to be a political independence of the political decisions and the independence of security in Syria. They need to help us to overcome the economic and other challenges we are facing. The international community needs to push to lift the economic sanctions imposed on Syria because of the criminal regime's practices. That regime acted in killing the Syrian people. You know this very well, he says. And this resulted in sanctions. So the killer has left, and the victims, the Syrian people, are here. So these sanctions shouldn't include the victims. As the killer has gone, these sanctions have to be lifted. Also, the regime ruled Syria for 50 years. There were a lot of laws of penalties and other issues and sanctions. There were some related to the 1976. There needs to be quick steps to be taken after the depose of Bashar al-Assad until we can build Syria in a proper way, and then we can mitigate or alleviate the suffering of the Syrian people.
Well, I would like to thank Mr. Eshara. I totally agree with him. As I was coming to Damascus this morning, we have used Cilvegözü Road. So we have seen almost all the cities in Syria for 5.5 hours or 6 hours. And unfortunately, I have seen a totally different Syria from 15 years ago. The whole Syria, unfortunately, has been in ramshackles and devastated with war. In order to ensure the fundamental services to the Syrian people, the international community should be in full-fledged mobilization, and they should extend their helping hand to the Syria. As Reisi stated, all the sanctions imposed for the previous government should be uplifted as soon as possible so that investment, financing opportunities, infrastructure services, healthcare services, and education services can be delivered to Syria. In order to ensure that the immigrants can go back to their hometown, the infrastructure should be rebuilt again. During today's talks, I have seen that there is such a strong will and a strong vision of the new government, and they have the will of working very hard. And this will of the new government hopefully will be supported by the international community. As the Republic of Turkey, both in the field of international diplomacy and via our development agencies and also our private sector companies, we will be doing our best so that Syria can rebuild its own country.
Another question from the press. The first question to Mr. Ahmed Al-Shara about what you've just mentioned, that Turkey and you have agreed upon a lot of things, including the form of ruling system. Is there any consensus with Turkey about the steps taken for the transitional period in terms of the ruling system? I mean, does Turkey support your steps, your vision, or your course? The second question to His Excellency, the Foreign Minister of Turkey, the presence, I'm asking about the presence of the so-called SDF in northeast Syria. The respite given to those forces, to the SDF, has come to an end. Is there any operation against them? Both questions are given. Are you asking about the Turkish attitude? He could express the Turkish attitude, I think, His Excellency.
Explain the stance of Turkey regarding to those matters. Valuable members of the press,
yardım elini uzatmak istediğimiz gibi kurumların ayağa kaldırılmasında da
we would like to extend our helping hand to Syria so that we can rebuild Syria, and we are ready to work in close tandem with the new government. And during our meeting today,
kuruluşu ve geçiş süreciyle ilgili çok net fikirlere sahip
I have realized that the interim government, the new government, actually has a crystal clear idea for the transition phase, and I certainly believe that hopefully after they realize all those targets, it will be for the best service of the Syrian people. So if they need our support for capacity building, of course, we will extend our helping hand. And our president has a strong will, and he is really sensitive about rebuilding Syria. The other issue is pertaining to PKK and YPG. We have discussed this matter with them as well. As you know, PKK and YPG invades 1/3 of the Syrian land unlawfully, and they are controlling the energy resources. They are stealing the properties of the Syrian people, and from Iraq, from Iran, and from Turkey also, with the far radical leftist groups, they indeed turned this area into a basin of terrorism.
gardiyanlık hizmeti karşılığında uluslararası toplumda
The international community
böyle bir alışveriş olmuş.
indeed keeps a blind eye just because of the fact that those terrorist organizations are guarding those energy resources. So this is the trait that they have with the international community. So I certainly believe that the new government will undertake the necessary steps so that the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of the Syria can be established once again. And during our meeting with Mr. Eshara, we have discussed what kind of steps can be undertaken. In New Syria, we don't need more chaos, more bloodshed, more humanitarian drama, of course. So hopefully YPG will recognize the territorial integrity of Syria as well. They will not be threatening it. So our Kurdish brothers and sisters hopefully will be living sure of their safety and security. Just like the rest of the Syrian population, our Kurdish brothers and sisters will be continuing their lives where they reside in safety and security. It is really important that we should also protect our Kurdish brothers and sisters from the claw of the terrorist organizations. So with regards to the Daesh prisoners, my dear friend and Syrian government stated that they are ready to take the responsibility. They said that they can receive those prisoners.
سؤالي الأول سيد أحمد الشرع التقيتم بقادة الفصائل المسلحة.
Mr. Shara, you've met the armed groups leaders. Have you agreed with them, with all parties, on disarming the arms and integrating in the security and military institutions? And what about a comprehensive reform process, Mr. Haqqan Fidani, with the new administration led by Trump, the US administration? Can you overpass the differences in terms of the so-called SDF in northeast of Syria? In terms, your question? When we talk about the armed factions or opposition forces, we've agreed before launching the operation with a number of the groups, factions, to have a unified leadership and Ministry of Defense after completing the operation. The majority of the armed groups have given us a word before starting the operation, but there were some groups who are far from the operation. We've told all armed Syrian opposition groups, and they said they gave us the word we've said, they gave us their word. There is difference between the revolution and the state. The multiple groups during the Syrian revolution period was not a good sign, but now we have started a new phase of a state. Within days we are going to establish the Ministry of Defense, and there will be a defense committee with major leadership to start or draw the form of the Syrian army, and the groups will disband themselves to be integrated in the army. We will not allow any arms or guns to be in the hands of other groups, whether in the areas of the PKK-affiliated SDF areas. We need to end this, because the fluid arms within a state will destroy the state itself. So our priorities, and on the top of our priorities, to control the arms and guns in the state, and most of the armed factions and the groups have agreed on this, and we wish the best.
As you know, as of 20th of January, the second term of Trump government will commence. We have worked with Mr. Trump before, and Mr. Trump indeed received that problem from the term of Obama. Well, there are a couple of features that I can cite for Mr. Trump. He is quite direct, and he only takes into consideration the rights and the interests of the Americans. And I think he believes that as long as a solution can be obtained against Daesh, there is no reason for Americans to stay in Syria. He couldn't understand why the Americans are in this region. Unfortunately, the American system does not only protect the rights and the interests of the Americans, but although I don't want to cite the names, they are trying to protect the rights and the interests of some other countries as well. So Mr. Trump really interprets the situation right, and he understands that Turkey is much more important than PKK in the region. But, you know, keeping United States in the region, so nourishing a terrorist organization in the region, which is provoking additional tensions, will be for no good. And unfortunately, there are some other figures, some actors in the American system who couldn't see the things unfolding in the region the way Mr. Trump does. So I do believe that in the new term, Mr. Trump will show a stronger will and approach this problem from a very different perspective.
Final question from a question from the press.
Of course. So on 8th of December, I was one of the first person who came to Damascus, and I have seen that, the Syrian people welcomed the opposition forces with great joy, and I see that this joy can be seen in the squares once again from time to time. But of course there are minorities living in Syria, and they want to be sure. That's why the announcements to be made by Eshara will cast the bright light. What would you like to say, Mr. Eshara, for the minorities who are concerned and still live in Syria?
The Syrian revolution was not against the minorities. So there shouldn't be any fears. The Assad regime frightened the minorities and the sects and sowing dispute against minorities. We entered large areas of the minorities. All Syrian spectrum, all minorities have welcomed us. We are protecting the minorities and other sects from the internal fighting, or some external powers could exploit this situation. Syria is a large country. We can coexist among each other. We have strong ties with all Syrian sects and minorities. All minorities have agreed upon deposing the Assad regime and establishing a new state that suits the conditions of the Syrian people currently and in the future.
Syrian deserves. Well, during my meeting with Mr. Shara and his friends, what I have seen is as follows. The previous Baath regime has used different stakeholders in society against each other. They turn different stakeholders of the society against each other. So they have drawn a good lesson out of those oppression. So in order not to repeat the same mistakes of the past, they are showing highest level of sensitivity. So the citizens of the Syria shouldn't be identified as minorities. So some citizens, due to their religious beliefs or ethnicities, shouldn't have advantages. That is the new vision of the new government. So this is actually the vision that Turkey and many European countries also implements. So independently from their ethnicities and their religious sects, all these citizens are equal in front of the law, and hopefully this will be realized in Syria as well. The joint press is over. Thank you very much.
And we've been listening there to the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan holding a press conference with Syria's interim leader Ahmed al-Shara, discussing their meeting that was held earlier today and some of the issues that they discussed. And listening to that for us is Bassam Bouneni. He's in Damascus at that presidential palace. And Bassam, there was a lot to be discussed here between these two men, from rebuilding Syria to security measures in the country. What were the key points we heard from these leaders?
Such visits are particularly significant, and hopes and expectations are high. But when it comes to Turkey, from a Syrian perspective, the appetite is pretty much greater, and that's exactly what Ahmed al-Shara, Syria's new administration leader, highlighted when he said that Turkey stood beside the people of Syria. Al-Shara also said that he was expecting more from Turkey, and that's exactly the answer he got from Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan when he said that Turkey will not leave Syria alone. Turkey stood on the right side of history. Both sides discussed an array of issues and topics, including economy, politics, security, diplomacy, and the Turkish Foreign Minister was using words like good neighborhood, good brotherhood, which is really underscoring the relations between the two countries. For Syrians, Turkey is a key neighboring country, so it is really relying on it in many aspects. Of course, the terrorism is part of the discussions between the two sides. Hakan Fidan said that PKK, YPJ should abolish themselves, and Al-Shara said that the government will not allow the flow of weapons to the terrorist group PKK, YPJ. Of course, there is some concerns regarding the isolation of Syria. That's why we heard that Al-Shara is urging the international community to help his country overcoming the urgent needs the country is facing, and the sanctions to be lifted. So the discussions are somehow thoroughful, comprehensive, and many feedbacks will follow.
Thank you very much for wrapping that up for us. Bassam Buneni there in Damascus. Well, let's get more on this with Asla Atbar. She joins me now from Ankara. And Asla, we heard there from Hakan Fidan talking about the rebuilding efforts and the Turkish organizations he says are ready to help. He named Afad and Tika. Just talk to us about these organizations and how they could help rebuild Syria.
Yes, of course, this is the latest we have seen about Turkey's ongoing efforts to recalibrate its diplomatic approach in Syria. And I think it's safe to say that this meeting has been very significant to reshape the relations between the two countries. Now, talking about rebuilding efforts, Hakan Fidan said Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has already given its orders for these mentioned Turkish institutions and NGOs to extend help to Syria in rebuilding efforts. Now, those institutions that he was talking about are quite experienced institutions in rebuilding capacities, and Hakan Fidan said Turkey is ready to offer its best experience, to share its experience. Now, we do know that Turkish institutions as well as private companies are very well equipped in rebuilding capacities when it comes to construction. And Hakan Fidan was talking there that reconstructing the country is very important in terms of the safe return of Syrian refugees. He said Turkey wants Syrian refugees living in Turkey to return in a voluntary basis, also under a strong government, and to be able to ensure that Turkey will offer any kind of help it can to this new interim government. Now, when we look at the significance of this meeting, that we have seen the pictures of the meeting, Turkish Foreign Minister and the interim leader Ahmet Al-Shara, and the presence of the Turkish flag at this meeting was, I think, quite significant and highlights the level of diplomatic relations between the two countries. This was also the first presser by the interim leader Ahmet Al-Shara with any world figure, any other leader or minister. So I think it's now safe to say that the relations are being reshaped between these two countries, and Turkey will play a significant role in the future during this transition process when the new government is being formed, but also while the country is being rebuilt and reconstructed.
Asla Atbar in Ankara, thank you very much for that. And we'll continue to bring you updates and analysis on the story throughout the day. That's it from me for this Sunday. I'll see you again on Monday. My colleague Isabel Ewing is with you from the top of the hour. Take care. Bye-bye.